China sent a clear message to the world this week. It was not subtle, it was not diplomatic, and it was definitely not accidental. The message came in the form of one of the largest and most elaborate military parades seen in decades. A spectacle carefully choreographed not just to impress, but to communicate power. Thousands of soldiers marching in perfect synchronization, endless lines of armored vehicles, massive missiles rolling slowly past the cameras, drones, tanks, futuristic platforms, and weapon systems that until recently existed only as rumors. Officially, the event marked the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. But that explanation barely scratches the surface. In reality, the parade was a strategic statement, a geopolitical message broadcast live to the entire planet. Every step, every vehicle, every weapon was designed to speak to specific audiences, both inside China and far beyond its borders. To the Chinese people, the message was simple. The nation is strong, united, and prepared. To Beijing's partners and allies, the signal was even clearer. Power is here, and standing close to it has benefits. And to the West, the warning was impossible to miss. The world has changed, and China no longer accepts being treated as a rising power. It wants to be recognized as an established one. At the symbolic heart of the Chinese state, standing before tens of thousands of people, China's leader spoke with almost calculated calm. His words were measured, deliberate, and restrained. According to him, humanity now faces a fundamental choice. Peace or war? Dialogue or confrontation? Cooperation or zero-sum conflict? But the real speech was not delivered through words. It was delivered through weapons. While global media debated diplomacy, alliances, and political symbolism, the true message rolled slowly past the cameras on wheels, tracks, and mobile platforms. This was not just a symbolic display. It was, above all else, a demonstration of military capability. And that is where the analysis becomes serious. Much of the international discussion focused on the political dimension of the parade. Who attended? Who stayed away? Which leaders stood beside Beijing? Which countries watched from a distance? But focusing only on that misses the point. The real objective of the parade was not simply to showcase diplomatic alignment. It was to demonstrate industrial, technological, and strategic capacity. Because in the 21st century, there is no clearer way to declare power than to publicly reveal vast amounts of advanced military technology. China unveiled missiles capable of striking anywhere on the planet, systems designed to neutralize drones by blinding sensors rather than blowing them apart. Robotic ground units, autonomous vehicles, unmanned underwater platforms, and next-generation stealth aircraft. Some of these weapons were known in the West only through rumors. Others appeared in intelligence assessments, but had never been shown publicly. And some simply did not exist in the public imagination at all until that moment. If these systems perform as Beijing claims, then the global military balance may be undergoing a profound shift. But before treating that as a settled fact, one critical caveat must be made. None of the weapons displayed were tested in real combat. Almost none of the systems were shown operating at full capacity. No missiles were launched, no lasers were fired under combat conditions, no complex platforms were pushed to the limits that define success or failure in war. Some of this technology may still be in testing phases. Some may not yet be operational. And in the worst-case scenario, some of it may be exaggerated, inflated for the purposes of strategic messaging. There is also a crucial point that often gets lost in the spectacle. Training soldiers to march in perfect formation is very different from preparing them to fight a modern war. Parades require visual discipline. Wars require logistics, improvisation, decentralized command, and experience under fire. Despite its rapid military growth, China has not tested its forces in a large-scale modern conflict for decades. That matters. Combat experience matters. But that does not mean what we saw can be dismissed. Because military innovation matters, and industrial scale matters even more. Even with a conservative assessment, one conclusion is hard to avoid. Aside from the United States, there is no other country today with a military-industrial complex comparable to China's. And that reality became unmistakable the moment the first missiles rolled into view. As the first missiles rolled down the parade route, it became clear that this was not a purely aesthetic display. This was not pageantry for its own sake. It was a warning, a reminder that, in geopolitics, real power is still measured by the capacity to destroy. The most symbolic, and perhaps most unsettling system on display was the intercontinental ballistic missile known as the DF-5. This weapon is not new. It dates back to the 1980s, shaped by Cold War logic. But what China revealed during the parade was not the old system. It was a modernized, more powerful, and far more sophisticated version. According to information released by Beijing, the DF-5C features upgraded engines, extended range, and the ability to strike anywhere within the continental United States. But range alone is not what makes this missile strategically significant. The real shift lies in its payload. Each missile is capable of carrying up to 12 independent nuclear warheads. These warheads separate during flight and follow different trajectories toward separate targets. One launch becomes multiple attacks, all arriving nearly simultaneously. Intercepting a single ballistic missile is already difficult. Intercepting a dozen independently targeted warheads launched from one platform is exponentially more complex. This is not a political problem, it is a mathematical one. And in that equation, defense almost always loses. The estimated range of the DF-5C approaches 20,000 kilometers. This is not a weapon designed for regional conflict. It is built for the highest level of strategic deterrence. But China did not stop there. For the first time, Beijing publicly revealed a system that had long existed only in whispers within Western intelligence circles, the DF-61. Unlike silo-based missiles, the DF-61 is mobile. It is transported and launched from massive road vehicles. That distinction changes everything. Fixed silos are powerful, but they are predictable. Their locations are known. They can be monitored by satellites. Mobile missile systems, by contrast, can move constantly. They can hide on highways and forests, inside tunnels, and within hardened facilities. They make any preemptive strike far more uncertain and far more dangerous. With an estimated range of roughly 12,000 kilometers, the DF-61 places cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, and Phoenix within reach. And it does so from platforms that can reposition until moments before launch. Taken together with submarine-launched nuclear missiles and air-launched nuclear systems, the message becomes unmistakable. China now possesses a complete and functional nuclear triad. That means nuclear strike capability from land, sea, and air. Even if one leg of that triad is neutralized, the others remain operational. This is the foundation of modern nuclear deterrence. And the implication is simple. Any attempt to militarily neutralize China would carry existential risk. But missiles were only one part of the story. As the parade continued, another theme emerged. One that revealed how Beijing is thinking about future wars. Not wars of sheer destruction alone, but wars of control. That is where directed energy weapons enter the picture. Among the most discussed systems were the truck-mounted laser weapons known as LY-1. These platforms were described as tools designed to neutralize drones and incoming threats not by blowing them apart, but by blinding them. Rather than destroying a target outright, the laser damages optical sensors, cameras, and guidance systems. A drone without sensors is useless. A guided munition without vision cannot hit its target. This reflects a fundamental shift in warfare. Victory is no longer only about destruction. It is about denial, denying the enemy the ability to see, to communicate, and to coordinate. In naval configurations, this concept becomes even more dangerous. Warships can generate the immense power required to operate high-energy lasers continuously. That opens the door to nearly limitless short-range air defense against drone swarms and guided munitions. The United States and several European countries are developing similar systems. The difference is that China chose to display them publicly. The message was subtle but clear. We are here, and we are not behind. Alongside lasers, China also showcased microwave weapons and systems designed specifically to counter drone swarms. Instead of engaging one drone at a time, these systems are built to disable dozens, potentially hundreds, simultaneously. This is not a coincidence. China has been watching recent conflicts closely. It has seen how inexpensive drones have inflicted disproportionate damage. And it is moving aggressively to counter that reality. That same logic appeared in the presentation of robotic ground units, often referred to as robotic wolves. These are quadrupedal robots equipped with sensors, antennas, and autonomous navigation systems. They are designed for reconnaissance, patrol missions, hazardous area clearing, and potentially tracking enemy forces. These machines do not replace soldiers, at least not yet, but they reduce risk. They go first, they observe, they gather data. They absorb danger instead of human lives. And that reveals something important about China's military mindset. Beijing is planning for long, complex, technologically dense conflicts. Wars where information, automation, and sensor dominance matter as much as tanks and infantry. That mindset was also evident in China's ground forces. The parade introduced the Type 100 main battle tank, described as a fourth-generation platform. It reportedly features an unmanned turret, an automatic loading system, and integration with drone assets. An unmanned turret is more than a technical detail. It reflects a doctrinal shift. Removing crew members from the turret reduces vulnerability, transfers combat functions to sensors and automation, and allows operations in environments that would otherwise be too dangerous. China also displayed light armored vehicles designed for airborne deployment alongside paratroopers. That suggests serious consideration of offensive airborne operations, missions that demand high levels of planning, logistics, and operational confidence. None of this is accidental. None of it is improvised. And perhaps the most important takeaway from this section of the parade is not any single weapon, but the system they form together. China is not simply building weapons to defend itself. It is constructing a complete ecosystem of modern warfare. Strategic missiles provide deterrence. Lasers and microwave weapons control the near battle space. Drones and robots dominate reconnaissance. Ground forces integrate automation and mobility. This does not mean China is ready to win a major war tomorrow. Experience still matters. Alliances still matter. Logistics still matter. But it does mean China is preparing to ensure that it will not be easily defeated. And when a nation reaches that level of preparation, the entire world has to recalculate its assumptions. If missiles represented the backbone of China's strategic deterrence, and futuristic systems revealed how Beijing is thinking about modern warfare, it was in the naval and air domains that the parade delivered its most unsettling message. Not only through what was shown, but through what was deliberately left out. China understands that the 21st century will not be decided solely on land. It will be decided at sea, in the air, and through the ability to deny access to an adversary. Everything Beijing chose to display, and everything it chose not to, points directly in that direction. Despite the obvious impossibility of bringing destroyers, cruisers, or aircraft carriers into the streets of Beijing, China still found a way to demonstrate naval power. Instead of steel hulls, it showcased the tools designed to make the oceans an extremely hostile environment for any opposing fleet. One of the most striking systems was a large unmanned underwater vehicle, roughly 18 meters in length. For a submersible drone, that size is enormous. It was described as stealthy, autonomous, and capable of operating for extended periods without direct human control. Platforms like this fundamentally alter naval warfare. A large unmanned submarine can conduct deep reconnaissance without risking crews. It can map shipping lanes, detect sensors, cables, and enemy vessels. Or, in a more aggressive role, it can be loaded with explosives and used as a direct attack weapon against surface ships. The message is clear. China is investing heavily in denying freedom of operation at sea, especially in strategically vital regions like the Western Pacific. That message becomes even more explicit with the appearance of anti-ship missiles. During the parade, China highlighted multiple variants from its YJ missile family, systems designed specifically to destroy high-value naval targets. Among them, the YJ-19 drew particular attention. It was described as hypersonic and potentially powered by a scramjet engine. A missile like this is not just fast, it is extremely difficult to intercept. Traveling at more than 5 times the speed of sound, capable of maneuvering during flight, and designed to operate in all weather conditions, it was clearly built with a specific target in mind. Aircraft carriers. More specifically, American aircraft carriers. For decades, U.S. carrier strike groups have been the decisive factor in crises across the Pacific. The assumption was simple. Wherever an American carrier arrived, it brought air superiority, strike capability, and maritime control. The YJ missile family is designed to challenge that assumption. These weapons are part of a broader strategy known as anti-access and area denial. The goal is not necessarily to destroy every enemy ship, but to make operations so dangerous that they become politically and strategically unacceptable. This has direct implications for scenarios such as Taiwan. For years, Washington and Taipei have operated under the assumption that U.S. aircraft carriers would be decisive in preventing a Chinese invasion. Beijing is signaling that this assumption can no longer be taken for granted. But the sea was only one part of the equation. In the air, the parade featured some of the most symbolically powerful revelations of the entire event. The most notable was the public debut of the 5th-generation stealth fighter known as the J-35. This aircraft had been the subject of speculation for years. Many analysts believed it existed only as a development program. But there it was, flying in formation in full public view. The J-35 is clearly designed for carrier operations, indicating that it is intended to operate from China's next generation of aircraft carriers. Its design emphasizes stealth, sensor fusion, and survivability in highly contested environments. Flying alongside it were multiple examples of the J-20, China's most advanced operational stealth fighter. The message was unmistakable. China has not only entered the club of nations capable of producing modern stealth aircraft, it is expanding within that club, fielding multiple platforms for different missions. Another critical detail was the appearance of a 2-seat variant of the J-20. The addition of a second crew member is not a minor change. It suggests a shift in air combat doctrine. That second operator can manage drone swarms, process sensor data, conduct electronic warfare, and act as a real-time battlefield coordinator. The aircraft becomes not just a fighter, but a command node in the sky, which brings us to drones. The parade showcased several large unmanned aerial systems, including platforms that clearly fit the loyal wingman concept. These drones are designed to fly alongside manned aircraft, extending sensor range, carrying additional weapons, and absorbing risks that would be unacceptable for human pilots. These are not small drones. Their size suggests long range, significant payload capacity, and advanced autonomy. They represent the future of air combat, and China is not merely observing that future, it is actively building it. Also on display was the KJ-600 airborne early warning aircraft designed to operate from aircraft carriers. Its role is similar to that of the U.S. Navy's E-2 Hawkeye, serving as the eyes and ears of the fleet, coordinating air defense and strike operations. China also highlighted its Y-20 strategic airlifter, now equipped with more advanced engines. This may seem like a technical detail, but it is not. Strategic airlift is what separates a regional power from a global one. It determines how far, how fast, and how sustainably a military can project force. Yet perhaps the most revealing aspect of the parade was not what appeared, but what did not. There was no public demonstration of China's newest aircraft carrier, currently undergoing sea trials, no footage of its electromagnetic catapult systems, no dramatic display of carrier-based flight operations. There was also no appearance of China's long-anticipated stealth bomber, a platform that, if operational, would place China in an extremely exclusive group alongside the United States. And perhaps most intriguingly, there was no mention of the mysterious next-generation fighter that had been spotted during test flights months earlier. If the goal had been pure intimidation, these systems would have dominated the event. They would have captured headlines and ignited debates worldwide. But China chose not to show them. That decision is significant. It may indicate that some of these platforms are not yet mature enough for public exposure. It may reflect a desire to avoid providing additional visual or technical data to foreign intelligence services. Or it may be something simpler and more strategic. China may be keeping its most advanced capabilities deliberately ambiguous. In the world of strategic deterrence, uncertainty itself is a weapon. Ultimately, what China did that day was not merely commemorate a historical anniversary, it conducted a global exercise in strategic communication. It showed enough advanced weaponry to demand serious attention. It demonstrated sufficient industrial depth to signal long-term capability, and it withheld enough information to keep adversaries guessing. The message was not, "We are invincible." It was something far more calculated. It was, "We are capable, we are learning, we are watching real-world conflicts closely, and we are preparing for them." This does not mean China is guaranteed to win a major war tomorrow. Combat experience still matters. Alliances still matter. Logistics still matter. But it does mean that any strategic planning that ignores China's military power is already outdated. In the end, one question remains unavoidable. Has China already become a complete military superpower? Or is it approaching the final stage of that transformation? The answer is not yet definitive, but after this parade, one thing is certain. No one can pretend that question does not matter. Thank you for watching.